Hello, everybody. Welcome to Disturbing the Priest. Today I'm joined by the band Wanted, a new wave of heavy metal band, and it's awesome to have them on the show. What's going on, guys? What's up?
Going.
Morning, man.
Yeah, I think one person's stuck in the snow. You're in your car. We got this together. There's some technical difficulties, but we made it happen.
Making it
And
work.
hell yeah. And it's sick that you guys are putting out amazing heavy metal in, well, I should say 2025, because like that's when the last record came out. But in this time, it's really great music, and I'm happy to have you guys on the show.
Thank you, man.
Now, I'd love to, one at a time, maybe like go over what your introduction was to heavy metal.
Yeah.
Um,
Chris, you want to start? You have a pretty good story, I think.
yeah, sure, I'll go. Um, yeah, I kind of grew up with it. I had an uncle who was a self-taught drummer, and I remember him as a very small child. And then my old man was into Dokken and Rat, and so he played that for my brother and I when we were really young, and I just thought it was cool. And I really wanted to do drums. My brother was better at guitar. He was left-handed playing a right-handed guitar upside down, so and he could do it better than me, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna do drums then. I like the sound of it better anyway, and just kind of went from there. I grew up jamming with my brother, all kinds of heavy stuff and 80s type stuff and a bit of 70s like heavy blues, progressive. Um, so that's pretty much it. We just focused on drumming.
Nice. Was there a specific like Rat or Dokken record that like really did it for
Um,
you?
Wanted Man, um, looking at looking at that and hearing the song Wanted Man, I was like, man, it
Oh,
sounds, you like it's heavy, but I was also like four, so like just I don't know, the jean vest and like the cool hair. So
Nice.
so yeah.
pretty
Hell
much,
yeah.
Dokken and that were like the inspiration. And then as far as playing wise, Gilmore from Triumph and Dio's drummer, Vinny Appice, and then later on, like Dean Castronovo, he did Shrapnel Records albums and then like some modern stuff that my brother would play, like heavier, like Lamb of God and Devil Driver. I would take some of that drumming and incorporate it into my style.
Nice. Awesome. I honestly, with this band, I hear so much like Rat and Talking already.
Yeah.
So I
That's
wouldn't be
kind of
surprised if that's for like everybody.
Well,
yeah.
we kind of
That's
combined it.
definitely
We
that's
actually all met at a Dokken concert, like a half hour from our place. They
yeah.
had just done their
Uh,
first album, and we met like that. And then a couple years later, I'm playing with them, and yeah, so it was kind of cool. Dokken and Rat are like a big. We all can really connect on that, so it's kind of a lot of the chemistry, the basis of things.
yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of our stuff comes from that, and then like the individual components also kind of really fuel everything. Like Chris and I are really big into Judas Priest, so that's also fueled a lot of the latest album at the very least. But like also, then you look at the other guys, and they all have their own personal influences, and you hear it, and when we go and record, and it's interesting, but like, yeah, it's common, kind of a common pattern for people to say. It's like, and we agree, we can agree to it. It's we all kind of merged because of that Rat and Dokken foundation, and that's kind of where like the soul of it is. And I feel like you don't really hear that often. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, Van Halen, they're kind of the the starter of everything, or if you're in a thrash
Guns N'
band like
Roses,
Overkill and
Van Halen
Exodus
type
and
stuff.
like all this stuff, and it's cool. I think it's a nice little change up.
Yeah, that's like a lot of origin stories, like back in the day too, of like members meeting at certain shows
Yeah,
and shit. Like I know Lars has like a similar story with Saxon, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, if someone wants to elaborate on that story of you guys meeting at that Dawkins show, where you did you guys just meet like drinking in the parking lot? or something?
No, it was our old drummer and then Christian and Paul. So it was us four. We had gone to see this Dokken show, and Chris was the only guy, one of the only young people at the show, and then the only guy with this like giant like '80s hair. And we're like, oh, we gotta go talk to this guy. And the guitarist kept like John Levin, I think is his name. That's the current guitarist for Doc, and he kept pointing at Chris. I was like, oh, he probably knows him. So we run up to Chris after we were hanging out after the show, and we asked him if he was in a band kind of like ours, and he was like, oh, I think he had were you in 13 Pistols at the time, Chris?
Yeah, we were looking for a singer, and Alan and them knew Sterling, and then because they had a singer at the time still, Nate, and
Yeah.
then they said, we know a guy, and then so it was like within the next few days, I think, is when I got in touch with Sterling and started jamming with him because you guys had just put out the first Wanted album like a week ago, I think, before we met.
Yeah.
So something like that.
It was
And
crazy.
then I checked it out a few weeks later and I was like, man, this is actually pretty good. I was, definitely like, oh shit, it's kind of rare, like young people actually like really knowing how to pull off the old school sound, without it being like lame, So it was dope, and we kind of just kept in touch, and been cool. So
Yeah. So Chris and our band,
that was,
or when
yeah,
Chris
that was
joined, it
cool.
was like a formation of two bands essentially, because Nate had left to do Firehouse, and then our old drummer, we had parted ways with him, so we had burned, both ends of the heavy metal spectrum together, and we created something very cool.
Yeah. So this is after the
And
Haymaker
it was
days.
like timing was
Oh, the
great.
Haymaker days.
Yeah,
You know
because you
about
guys
Haymaker,
you guys changed your name. You used to be Haymaker.
Wait, did I tell you that?
No,
That's
before
crazy.
off air,
That
dude. I'm like the metal Nardwar. What could I say?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Literally, that is crazy.
I got some
dude.
gifts for you guys too.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's crazy.
fucking
Yeah, we were
wild.
called Haymaker is like 2021. When we first, that was a fully different lineup. Only,
You're the only member that was in that because the name was changed by the time I was in the band.
yeah. So there was a whole different Wanted essentially before Christian and Paul joined. It was me and another guitarist, and then we had some kids from high school. The other guitarist and a bassist were kids I knew in high school, and Jameson, our original drummer. I don't even know how we met him because I showed up to his house not even knowing who the guy was. I kind of just got taken there. It was kind of scary, but it was cool because. But it was that was Haymaker. We wrote 3 songs under that name that ended up on Chain Reaction. It was No Warning, very first song we ever wrote, and then Right Here Right Now, which actually didn't make it on the Chain Reaction, and then
It's on YouTube though.
Yeah, it's not good, but it's out there for the world to find something rare, I guess. But
It's only on YouTube, right?
yeah, it's only on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's funny you know that.
Yeah. So if you can like kind of elaborate why you changed the name to Wanted.
We thought, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because like I think when I would say it to other people, like it kind of felt gross to say it. I don't know why. Just like I had like an irk when I said like Haymaker, and I felt like it was just like it. I don't know.
Like
So
the pronunciation you didn't like.
Yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't cool. I mean, I guess you can argue that with Wanted. I mean, I love the name because it's just like you say it, and it's like it's a word you see everywhere. It's like workers wanted and all that. So you think of it whenever you see stuff like that come up on the streets or when you're walking around, and that's what I really liked about it. But we changed the name. I think we all kind of came to agreement. This was before Christian and the other guys. We just didn't like it, And the original, the other guitarist who was a founding member with me, he had came up with the name, and we just stuck to it because initially that was Wanted was a side project to me because I already had a band, which is like a whole different thing. I had another band, so I was like, whatever. It's kind of something. I didn't even know if we were going to actually ever do anything with it, and then we started doing stuff with it, and then that's when I became more involved. I was like, yeah, let's. Everybody felt the same way though. We were like, let's change the name, and then we picked Wanted because our old drummer was kind of into like Western movies, and we were like, that's a cool idea. We were almost called Trial. We were almost called Law. Those are just some of the ones that came up. But yeah, we stuck with Wanted.
I feel like, you guys work so well with like a one word name. A lot of bands from the 80s that kind of have a similar sound to you guys have that one, like Rat Dawkin,
Yeah.
and many others. So I feel like it just works so well with your sound, and even the look as well. Like really is kind of like, I think I know exactly what this band is going to sound like. But of course, you guys add your own spin on it, of course. So for Chain Reaction, it came out like what, a year after you guys formed, a full length?
Yeah. After the initial, like the very beginnings of the group of people that were formed. Yeah, the name Wanted came essentially a year before Chain Reaction. Yeah.
Got it. So were any songs on that record brought over from any other members, or like riff ideas, song structures, or any of that, or was it like written completely fresh?
On Chain Reaction.
Yeah.
So Let Me was written. I guess I could. So all the songs were written in unison as the lineup that was on the record, right? Those most of the songs were written together. There was only a few that had been brought in by prior members. I wouldn't say brought in and then like it was totally credited to them because there was a lot of like rearranging and like, this is like the note choice, and we just changed it up, right? But there was some ideas that came from prior members, like No Warning. It initially started as a different sounding riff, but it was very similar to what it was, and it was from our first guitarist. And then we essentially recreated it, and then put it onto the album. And I think that's really the only one because we had like 5 songs that we were gonna call the EP, which we did press. We pressed like 5 copies of vinyl. It was so expensive. I mean, we made our money back, but we pressed a couple of vinyl so you could hear like the early iterations of these songs. But yeah, no, I think really No Warning, unless I'm wrong, Christian or Paul, I think No Warning was really the only like early track that made it onto the record.
I mean, once Paul stepped in, he had a big hand in like writing Reason. Like Alan kind of had that like formed, and then Paul basically like redid the lyrics. Like him and Alan kind of worked collaboratively on that, and that one changed quite a bit. But I mean, nothing really comes to mind once we kind of got solidified as a band. I know Bite the Bullet was kind of written by all of us as a group, and I don't know, maybe Out of Love also kind of happened like when
I brought that
everything
one
was together.
Out of Love, I brought that one. I had written it at home and then brought it to the band.
But not really anything from like other projects because I mean most of us hadn't even been in a band before. Like I myself, this is the one and only band I've ever been in, and I dabbled with guitar before this band, but this band like is the reason I'm a guitar player and the reason I like continued to play. Just I joined the band and it was like, okay, well now I'm playing guitar. So I know it's the same with Paul too. He wasn't in a band prior. We just knew each other. We both played guitar together, and I brought him on board, and we just kind of made it all happen.
Cool. Yeah. So Late Attraction, which came out the year after, which is just kind of insane. A lot of these bands like will put out an EP every like 2 years because they're like, it's too much. I can't write that many tracks where you guys, it's like just so consistent with the music. Now, for that second record, I feel like you guys really established your sound with that second album. What do you think changed about the songwriting process and just your approach that makes that true compared to the first album?
What do you guys think?
I think a lot of it was kind of seeing how Chain Reaction ended up playing out. It was and you can kind of hear it in a lot of music. It was a bit of a rushed album, so to speak, in that we only spent one weekend in the studio actually recording everything.
Yeah, that was messed up.
So it was a pretty quick process, and I think that's kind of where Late Attraction kind of, overshadows it, is because we took our time a little bit more, not just with the actual recording, but with the songwriting as well. There was a lot more time put into that. It was a lot more of, at that point, we had established a lot more kind of chemistry within the band too. For example, Chain Reaction, I joined the band in February. A lot of the writing was done for Chain Reaction, basically from January through, so like a month before I joined, from like January through like March, and we ended up recording in April or May, and then it was, released shortly after that. So really quick process with Chain Reaction, and again, cutting edge. We took our time a lot with it more. We had a new singer for that, Sterling, too, who we were all familiar with prior, so we already kind of had that chemistry with it. But I think that's why it's much more of a polished kind of product, and we were able to kind of really collect our sound with it a bit more, is because we were able to take our time with it a bit more and actually put that effort into the writing, the recording, everything with that.
Cool. Yeah. How do you join the band?
So, like Christian said, Wanted is kind of like a pyramid scheme in that, one person comes in, they bring another person, they bring in. So, Alan brought Christian into the band. I've known Christian for a long time, for years now. I'm really good friends, still am really good friends with two of his older brothers. So Christian was always kind of the younger brother that was just around, as part of the friend group. So I've known Christian for years. Like I said, we started playing guitar a little bit, just got more into music together towards the junior, senior year of his high school, and like my freshman, sophomore year in college. So we just started playing music a lot. He joined this band that he was like, Wanted, dude, they're really cool guys. We need a substitute bassist, because the former bassist went to Purdue for college, so he was out of town a lot. So initially, I was just going to come on as the substitute bassist and kind of play in whenever the previous member was, out of town. And I did an audition, so to speak, and they were just like, "All right, yeah, I think we're just gonna, go with you as the full-time bassist."
Dude, we knew, it was interesting because we had, before Chris and Sterling, we weren't really. We would say that we were from like our hometown, because that's where most of us were based out of. So like we weren't like so much in the Detroit scene, so we knew nothing about any other bands, any venues. So we were like, like it was like Paul said, people just brought other people in, just through connections, and it was never really like, oh, let's go to the shows and find members. But I'm happy that we did it the way we did, because now we have, really strong, foundation. We weren't necessarily like chasing like technical or like crazy, ability or whatever. Not saying that everybody's really talented in the band, but like nobody. We founded Wanted over like strong relationship. Like we're all really close. We all, love what we do, and we. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but essentially, it's just we kind of.
We didn't have to put flyers up to find each other.
Yeah, it was cool. Sorry, I don't know why I blanked, but yeah.
No, it's all good. It's very heartfelt, and that's what I like to hear. So you brought up kind of that Detroit scene, and how do you reflect on navigating that metal scene when you guys were playing a lot of shows?
So
and still are, obviously.
When we first started playing our first ever show at an actual venue, because we would just throw we would throw backyard parties to make money. That was the origin story for Wanted. It was we needed money to get in the studio, and we didn't know how to do it without seeming like beg. You know, we don't want to start begging people and like being like, oh, you know, whatever. So we essentially made like a pre-order link for our EP and had people order stuff on there. And then we did these backyard shows for the longest time, and we saved up our money and then recorded the first three songs, which were "Let Me," "No Warning," and "Right Here, Right Now." And we used that to get into venues afterwards. Once we started to do a little more research, I don't even know. I think, I mean, we have a friend. His name's Eric Shackleton. I think he followed us. I don't know if it was through me or something, but I saw his band was playing at a venue called the Diesel, which is like, that's kind of almost like our home base now. And that's when we started to reel in. And our first ever venue show was June 10th, 2022 at the Diesel. And that's kind of where we started to learn about the Detroit bands. Because like, oh, we're meeting the UG winners, you know, let's make connections, let's start networking. And that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah. What's your relationship with those other bands in the Detroit scene?
Well,
So far, so good.
Yeah, I would
All the
say
people that we've played with, it's been pretty all right.
Yeah, it's been great. I think the thing is, it's hard. It was always kind of hard for us to mesh because, I mean, they're all great people, but our sound's very different. Like not better or worse than theirs, but it's just very genre wise. We were like the only band that wasn't like a core band or like too like we're not indie enough to play with those.
There's not a lot of bands doing the old kind of 80s type heavy
Like,
metal, hard rock stuff, you know?
at least not like there is like now there's a little bit more. Like if you look at the flyers that we're playing with
Like
now,
there's a bit, but it's just, you know, just like little cheesy bullshit kind of things, you know?
yeah,
There wasn't really much as far as like a serious thing, but also the Detroit music scene has like grown immensely in the last like, I don't know, like 7 years. So that's really helped a lot. So it's like, it's pretty open, you know? So like a lot of people that like all the other stuff that Alan was just talking about, they like the stuff that, you know, when we play too. So it's kind of, you know, it's cool as long as your energy's good and you're tight and like what you're doing, you know, I don't know, it's, you know, pretty good. Detroit's kind of hard to please, but if you like what you're doing and you really are good at it, you know, they respond well no matter what you're doing.
yeah. It was yeah. I was gonna say, we like Chris said, we stand out just because we don't really do like a common sound. Like we're not hardcore band or we're not any kind of core band, and that's kind of what was for a while reigning the area. So
Yeah.
now it's a little bit different. But that's just kind of what a relationship with the Detroit scene is.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like new wave of thrash bands and so many death metal bands. There'll never be no death metal bands
Yeah, oh,
at this
definitely.
point, but I feel like you guys definitely stand out in
Thank you.
terms of like doing like great traditional metal. And a lot of bands are doing that, especially in like this new wave of metal. So it's really great to see. Now, Cutting Edge is the newest record. Have you guys been paying attention to like reception and just like fan reaction to this album?
Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome, dude. You know, in the modern age, you kind of have to put yourself on a social platform like social media. Otherwise, you're kind of just like throwing stuff to the wind, which nobody wants to do, but it's something that you kind of have to do. But like Cutting Edge, well, I mean, we first kind of saw a lot of interest in our band like online when Under the Law dropped. Like that song did pretty well on TikTok. We started seeing a bunch of numbers like online, like Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And we would look at Spotify, Apple Music, and like the graphs are like spiking, like we dropped a new album. It's like, oh shit, like people really do like this like a lot. Like there is a demand for this out there, and a large part of it is just kind of like finding that demand. And when Cutting Edge came out, Chained to Your Love like popped off on social media. Like, yeah, I mean, it's our number one song by like quite a long shot. And, just seeing stuff like that is like really awesome because I feel like we've been able to hone in our sound. And I think people are kind of picking up on that. And like, it's drawing more eyes towards us. And It gives, our core fan base who've been here since Chain Reaction or Late Attraction, just kind of the next level of Wanted as well. And people have been really seemingly blown away by, album 3. And I feel like we did our due diligence and put a lot of time and effort into like really making it a better album, through, like a longer studio process, a more focused production process of, getting the album done with our studio engineer and like having him kind of, give his insight, and he's a lot more comfortable with us and the sound that we're looking for. So he was able to, really put his best foot forward, with a lot more clarity than in the past.
Yeah.
Which
cool.
was chill. Everything that he had input on, we all like agreed or had already thought of. So it was really chill working with Tony.
Yeah, Tony O'Mara, he's the guy.
He likes all the same guys we like, or like, like Michael Wagner and guys like that, all the 80s producers. So it was really kind of super easy, and chill. He wasn't trying to tell us what to do. He also was super laid back. So it was cool.
Chris.
Yo. It's tweaking, huh?
Uh-oh.
It's tripping.
There.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we're back.
Good now.
All right, we're good.
I can hear you guys now.
Okay.
Yeah, so, to get more in depth with that, how hands-on are you guys with the production process?
I think a good way to put it is we put a lot of trust into Tony, but we'll always give our input, once
we're in his ear quite a bit. We're definitely in his ear, but we're also respectful and chill. But he also, like he has great sense, so we don't have to really badger him about stuff,
Yeah.
So with Cutting Edge, what was kind of like the creative chemistry there with the songwriting between you guys?
Well, we had Chris now, so Cutting Edge.
A big part.
Yeah, so Chain Reaction and Late Attraction both had our previous drummer, who was very big into I would say like the whole like new coming of thrash. So he really wanted to apply that into like it kind of started with Chain Reaction and then Late Attraction. Like we were kind of fighting him on it because none of us were really like into it. I mean, I love that stuff. And I mean, most of the guys have their favorite bands in that genre as well. But it's like the hard part was we had all kind of came together under this umbrella, like we want to do this kind of music. And then out of nowhere, you just started to kind of drift away from it. And we were kind of fighting with them on everything. And then once we had moved on, we got Chris, and Chris was like so into this genre and like knowing every single like just every little bit about the genre he had pulled inspiration from. And I think that's what we love so much. It's like we had finally found a guy that wanted to fully put his energy into creating that sound that we all envisioned in our brains, like it got to the point where we almost, we had like 5 thrash songs essentially written out. We were like, oh, we're going to throw, and then we were like, I don't know. We changed our minds and then, created what we did with Chris once he came into the band.
That's kind of just the beginning. That was like because I joined in February, and then we had started recording like 7 months later. So, it was just kind of like the beginning of, things for everybody. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, Chris kind of launched our current sound into existence.
Cool. Well, it's like I think your best record, and I'm excited to see where you guys go with your sound. You guys are on Enon Records, or how do you even say that?
We're on Eonian right now.
Eonian. Okay.
Yeah, it's a weird pronunciation, but yeah.
Yeah. So how did you guys get signed to them?
They reached out to us. They had found this was before Cutting Edge. They had found us, I think, in 2024, and they were like huge. They were really into the first 2 albums, and they didn't really have a lot of new bands on their label. A lot of their stuff is reissue releases, so they'll find like they'll find bands that might have released an album or through a small independent label but had done really well in like a like a cult following kind of way. Like if you know them, then you love them, but if you don't know them, then there wasn't really the marketing back then to get them on a platform. So they kind of reissue a lot of those bands from like late '80s, early '90s. And they found us. We're like, hey, we want some more original stuff, or like not original, but like we want some more new stuff coming out today. And we thought you guys would be great. So that's kind of how we founded that connection with them.
Cool. How would you guys describe your relationship with them now?
I think it's great. I mean, we still keep in contact with them.
Pretty chill, pretty cool, Definitely no bad energy at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you guys put something out, I guess, I think technically every year since you guys have formed, from singles to a full release.
24 was the only year that, or under the law.
Under the law.
Yeah.
Out of touch, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Out of touch as well was February of that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you guys doing now? Do you have like some songs under your belt right now? Or are you currently writing?
We're going to continue that trend.
Yeah, we're continuing the trend.
Yeah. So we got,
you go on, you tell.
Yeah. So we got a new single coming out. Should we share the title of it?
Yeah, it's already on the flyer.
Oh, yeah. We've been playing it.
Yeah, we have been playing it like at every show in the past. So new single coming out, Last Commands. I believe it's what did we say? April 14th? 17th. Sorry. April 17th, we'll have that single coming out. So that's going to be kind of the main release of 2026 to this point. We are in the midst of writing what's going to be the fourth album. There's not really a timeline on that yet, or a distinct time for that. We're hoping to be in the studio recording for that, likely towards the end of this year. So maybe November, December of 26. If not, then likely early 27. So we will at least have another single release coming out in 26 to continue that trend of every year, but. It's looking like, maybe album, next year single, next year album, next year single, and, another album likely is going to be releasing hopefully early 27, early to, maybe summer of 27. So,
yeah.
Very, very exciting. Now,
we do have several songs for already, so we don't want to rush it at all. We want to really top cutting edge. So that's kind of the reason for the the process, the time frame.
Right.
Awesome. Now I don't want to spoil it too much, but where do you see your sound going after Cutting Edge? Do you see it more like a sequel record to that one?
You guys can talk it. I mean,
I think I don't know. I would say it's pretty similar, almost kind of like a sequel to Cutting Edge, in that it has a pretty even mix so far. And the songs that we have, thus far and have written and kind of are working on writing, it's sort of a sequel in that it has a mix of kind of a lot of different styles of songs. So, for example, like you have the Cutting Edge, like the fast, hard, the title track off that fast, hard hitting song. And then you have Change Your Love, which is kind of that more power ballady kind of, heavy song. And then, different kind of like bluesy songs, whatnot. So I think in terms of, the cohesiveness of this next album with Cutting Edge, it will be pretty similar, or kind of like that sequel nature.
It's going to be like a next level, like more extreme version of Cutting Edge, not in like a crazy extreme way, but it's just going to be, just a better thing of that, pretty much,
I think the main point of it as well is that with Cutting Edge, and now that we have this kind of solidified group of guys that we're working with, the chemistry just keeps building with each of us. With Cutting Edge, we found really what all of us love. I don't think there's a single song on the entire album that anyone was iffy about. Like each song, everyone was like, hell yeah, like this is going to be the song.
We were all super pumped.
Yeah, so with Cutting Edge, it's going to be a continuance of that type of sound. Now that we kind of have that. Obviously, the reaction to Cutting Edge has been great. We don't want to, now that we got a good reaction to an album where it's kind of starting to blow up a little bit. We don't want to change everything up and give everyone something completely different. But it is going to be pretty similar in that regard of things.
Just like an extension, like a growth of it. These guys, from like the time I joined, now we can sit down and we can improv like some really badass stuff. So it's just kind of like just growing. So the next album's gonna be really killer.
That's really exciting, man. I'm very excited. Now, I do have to ask, because this modern day, this is kind of a thing that I have to deal with a lot of bands. How do you feel like AI fits into Wanted, if at all?
I don't
doesn't even touch us. AI doesn't even come by us.
That's very great to hear. A lot of bands have broken my heart, unfortunately, with just like some of the shittiest album covers and even like in the music itself. But like just your sound and the art is fucking awesome that you guys use. So
thank you.
I assume you'll keep that trend going with future material.
We have an excellent relationship with a lot of artists. Precious Metal Designs, like for one, and Amelia Warbis, all kinds of people who are like pretty big into that kind of like, traditional heavy metal kind of art style. And it's like, it's our pleasure to be able to support these people the way that they support us. It makes us look great. It makes them look great. And, the goal is to keep pushing for that. And we have no plans of changing that.
Yeah. If any bands are seeing this, Precious Metal Designs, they got some cool old school stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I do want to say this also. You guys are great live. I haven't seen you, but there's some bootlegs online. It's like Detroit Music Connection or whatever the hell. Whatever that's called. You got like, a very tight band. You guys, there's some songs you guys play a little faster and it just works so well in the live setting. There's like that aggression. Do you guys see yourselves putting out like anything live, a live EP or something? In the future?
I would love
We've
to.
been talking about it lately, actually.
Yeah, going to maybe at our next show, because we got a show in Detroit April 17th, and that's supposed to be like that. We want that to be the biggest show we've played, at least as a headliner, in Detroit.
That'll be our first one in the area this year too. So
so it'll be high energy. Everybody's gonna be off the rocks. So if we get a cool live audio pull from the soundboard, I think that'd be the best day to do it.
Yeah. Well, I
talked to 2025 live album, or 26, my bad.
That'd be sick, because you guys, especially with this next record coming out, you'll have like such an insane set list to build after that.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. And it's like, this is the time to do it, I feel like. So I'd say talk to Detroit Music Connection or whatever the hell that is, and at least put on Bandcamp or something, because it's great stuff and the fans would love it. So just in general, what's the future of Wanted look like, if there's anything we missed?
Bigger and better. I think that's all we can really strive for, is just bigger and better. Keep, staying on top of trying to top our album just one after another. Keep growing our fan base, keep growing our shows, make them bigger. We're talking more official tours in the future, bigger festivals. We got a couple of those lined up for this year, and just, legitimizing the process of everything just even more, and just constantly trying to grow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Just progressing. Yeah.
And what's the best way for people to stay updated and just generally updated with everything Wanted?
I think our Instagram's probably like the hottest place to be.
Probably that. Yeah, maybe check the website for like show dates, perhaps.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Really awesome talking to you and learning about the band's history and what's to come in the future. Check them out on all socials. I'll have the description below, have all that information. I'm Brandon Battick, and this has been Disturbing the Priest.
It's death! I've just seen death!